Hi, I'm doing another jump. I've been experimenting with how to print these little label things. This one, these were tags that I'd just painted and, stuck down, but they have this horrible sort of where the paint is sticky and it makes a pattern. I don't like it. I prefer the matte things. So those were done with the gel plate and this template that I'd made with the labels. And I quite like those, and they are nice and they'd be lovely cut out, but I wanted them to have a bit more expression to them. And I've tried a couple of ways of printing them because I really wanted a line drawing, with the actual words on it, but printed nicely. I did do something that's sort of half came out, wherever it is. Oh yeah, and I printed them on maps. So I'm just going to continue this a bit to see where it goes. I have gone on and cut out templates the size of my gel plate because I don't want them to overlap. The one that was too big, they didn't all fit in. I wanted them to sit in the gel plate. There was bits going over the edges. So I've got this. I have got a piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to do it on this. This is blotting paper, so it's soft. And I've got these to draw around. So I want a few on my template. Not too many, because I found I just didn't need them to be too many. So I can cut them out to print them as a sheet. And I can cut them out to have them as sort of individual ones as well. My own little prints. I really want the lettering on it. It's the lettering that's really important. It's the sentiment on them. I mean, I could just get a pen and ink and draw it, write it on the ones that have been printed, or for that matter, bought ones that you just simply stick into your journal, because these are dead cute as they are to just stick in your journal. Because I wanted to do a travel journal for my lad who's going off to New Zealand. I just really sort of was enjoying the idea of it. So I've drawn a few out and then I will cut them out and I found the most responsive thing was an actual scalpel blade and a ruler. And I don't bother with the complications of the holes. I'm just getting the shapes. I'm just keeping it dead simple. And this is just on a piece of acetate stencil sheet, the Brilliant, and you get about 10 for a £5. And it doesn't have to be exact because I want it to have a bit of personality when I've finished. Okay, so I'm going to cut those out. So I've got the template and now I want a line drawing with the sentiment on it. And you need a thick piece of paper. This is 240 grams. I'm going to try this one and then I'm going to try a thicker one. And you need something that's got not too much actual texture on it. Not a watercolour, a textured watercolour. That's a very untextured watercolour, but it needs to be thick. Thick enough so that it's durable and so that your line that you make when you write on it lasts for a bit and doesn't just last like one print. There would be no point in making it then. I may as well just write it on. So this is a piece of really heavy, it's 600 GSM watercolour paper that's pressed, hot pressed. So it's very smooth. So I'm going to wet what's underneath. I've wet it on both sides to really soften the paper up, so that when I draw onto it with a biro, it's really indented into the paper. So there I've got my stencil on top of that, just so that I've got the shapes. And then I'm going to press really hard and make, hopefully, even if the writing doesn't come out because it's wet, deep indentations into the page. Draw all around all of them so that you've got their positioning. And I'm not bothered about how neat this is. I quite like it, with a very spontaneous gestural mark, sort of very hand done. That's sort of what I was after. I've got them nice and deep, maybe even go over it to make it even deeper, because I want this stencil to work on a number of them. And I'm going to try a few different things to see which works the best. Because I've got mount board. I mean, that's more durable, and I think if you could mark into it enough, it would last for longer. Of course the biro doesn't work because it's wet. And then to put some sentiment on it, right, you can put the circle in it and put some sort of string on it. Bon voyage. Not all those who wander are lost. Travel light and strong. What else have I got? See you later, alligator. To the Great Adventure was a nice one. I Wish You Were Here I liked, because I always miss my kids. And I hope you end up where you need to be. So that's one. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this one. This is just a 240 gram paper. See what happens with this. Right, and redo the same idea. So pop that on as I did before. I've got two kids who are both adventurous, and they're both going to go travelling. Well, they've both been travelling, and I know that they're going to go off again. I was going to make a little journal for them both, and I had this idea about using these templates for making a really nice journal that they could fill with the photographs and notes from their travels, because I travelled a lot as a kid and I never really bothered with all that. Writing things down was never one of my fortes, so I'm going to try and encourage them. So I began with doing this, and then I really got into this whole idea of being able to use these templates like this. So I've experimented. Right, so I've made a template, and then I'm just wanted to make some really lovely little labels that were had a nice sentiment to them. So you've got to make sure that that's opposite to how your labels are going to be. Have I got that right? Yeah, I have. So now when I put the map on it, just got this lovely little, this A to Z of Manchester I've got, I think it was. Somebody gave it to me. So I'm just going to pick off the first layer. And I don't want it that intense. I'm quite happy with it. Like so. I've been printing with black and I fancied a bit more of a blue this time. But I want a sort of a blue brown. So I'm mixing it a bit first. And I'm mixing it on the palette first because I got it on too thick last time. Right, so don't apply too much of this. Got my ruler. And apply this layer quite thinly onto the surface of your plate. Nice and evenly, like so, but not too thick, by just embossing the papers with writing. Then put them on. Now this was a 240 gram paper, and it does, because you can really feel that it's embossed. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. So just sort of rub it down. Try not to press your lettering in too much, but you still want the paint away from your lettering. And then, right, that one worked really well. I think it's something to do with the absorbency of the paper itself. Yeah, I mean that's worked really nicely. You can see it's printed back to front. Oops, I didn't really lost that. Right, get your little print you've just done. And then you can line it up. So this is... Oh no, have I done it wrong again? I keep printing this the wrong way round, because of course then it doesn't work, does it? It won't go on. But I tell you what you can do, is you can let this dry. I'll just get this clean, and then you can actually use it the other way round, so that it will go on like so. And even then, doesn't have to be exact. I quite like it when they're slightly off-centered. Okay, that's dry enough to put this coat on. Then put that coat on. No, it probably isn't dry enough to put that coat on. No, but please let it be though. Have I just completely destroyed that by not waiting? Right. So hopefully the lettering will still be on that. If you let that dry and then put your translucent glaze over the top of it and then print it. And these that I've done and, you know, trashed aren't wasted. I'm just going to put this to one side to dry. These that I've got wrong because I printed it on the wrong side aren't wasted. You can do it by hand. I mean, it's so quick to do it, and your line doesn't have to be perfect. The whole thing about it is that it isn't perfect. They look like sort of notes or, I don't know, some sort of vintagey type. Write on it in pen and ink. And it just has this lovely vintagey look. So you can just use those. And I mean, these you can cut them out, you can stick them on, you can stick it on as a page and then stick images on top of that. You can reprint on this. Say you went to the seaside or something, you could do a seaside look over the top of it with translucent ink, so you could still see all this underneath. I mean, it's a really nice effect. And you can see you don't have to be careful. So it's incredibly quick. You just have to be confident, I think. Oops, did I think even that's okay? I'll leave that to dry a bit. What else have I got? Bon voyage. Travel light and strong. Is where the heart is. And another two I need. To the great adventure. Oh, there's not enough ink in here. You know how impatient I am by now. Well, I think that's dry enough. So I've just got to lift those off, all of it. So I'm just going to put a clear glaze over the top of it. Let's just hope this is dry enough. So just make sure there's enough of it on to lift off everything. Right, get your papers. And then let it dry on there. Let's hope it works. And I know that it takes quite a bit to get this off, doesn't it? This paper isn't very absorbent either. There's a bit of a sheen to it, so it doesn't sort of lift it off as well as you might think. Right, just got to let that dry, haven't I? Right, here goes. Right, this paper is not the best. It gets stuck, well and truly. So, and then when it's, and then this template has been used a number of times because I just couldn't work out how to do it properly. But when it does work, it works really nicely. Right, I missed that last bit, which is dried on there. May your, a bit more ink. May your I'm just going to blot that off a bit. I don't like it so intense. It's not like the rest of it. There we go. And there you go. To the great adventure. Have a great time. I'm lost without you. The journey is the adventure. All are love always. And may your journey never end. And they are such lovely things to put inside a journal. Stick onto pages to make it very much a part of it. Again, just to add interest and everything. What I've ended up with is a whole series of really nice little prints on paper, different papers, some of which I've had to go over with pen and ink as well because I just hadn't got the technique right. But what I really like is the sort of faded quality of them. So even if I have gone over it with a pen and ink, you still got this really nice printed quality about it. You know, the sort of mess of it, which I really like, sort of Ralph Steadman type imagery without the aggression. Okay, there you go.